Hello everyone. Before we have a look at the game of the day, I just want to mention a couple of things. First of all, we are listening to you, and starting from today, there shouldn't be any spoilers in the title. So I hope that most of you are already happy. And to be honest with you, I'll be also very happy not to see any spoilers in the title whenever possible. This is one thing. Another thing, there is still one game in progress at the moment. So that game might also turn out to be a decisive one, but 3 games of Nakamura will be a little bit too many in a row. Although definitely he deserves if he wins. But that game was also a win for one of the sides, and this is the game between the local hero Michael Adams playing with the white pieces against the former world champion Veselin Topalov of Bulgaria. Both of them not having a very good tournament, and as most of the people would have expected, this game should end in a draw. Maybe they would be happy to split the point, but knowing both the players, we saw a very uncompromising game. Even though it started as a bully, Adams, who is playing with the white pieces, decided not to go into the endgame, but he played the move d3. And pretty much every game nowadays on top level sees the move d3. And white is trying to find various plans to get some slight advantage, or at least to get some play. Adam's preparation in this game was just perfect. He took on c6, he played knight e2, nothing unusual so far. After bishop e6, he castled. By the way, another idea which was explored recently is the one with knight to b3. And after bishop e6, bishop d2, followed by knight a5, I think that White got a little bit of an advantage, at least a little bit more pleasant position in the game. Caruana against Anand from St. Louis 2016, but Adams has another idea in his mind. So first of all, he castles. The bishop goes on d6. This is the optimal square for the bishop. On c5 it is active, but this pawn needs protection. Another plan for black is to go knight e7. And in an ideal world, he would like to play f6, bishop back on d6, c5, knight b8, knight c6 and knight e4. But these moves are taking too much time, and for that time white is finding interesting ideas, and he is usually striking in the center. This is exactly what Adams did in this game. After bishop to d6, he played d4 immediately. Obviously black cannot capture it because of the fork with e5. So he played knight e7. Knight e5, knight e5, pawn takes back, bishop takes e5. All of this has been seen, and up to here the two players are following the game Nakamura against Aronian, in which the Armenian grandmaster chose queen d4 check, and then he dropped the bishop back, and he decided to defend this position. Topalov instead gave the check on d4 with the bishop. He wanted to keep the queens on the board. And after king h1, f6, c3 is an important move, and that's actually a novelty. The idea is to kick the bishop away from the e5 square as quick as possible, because in the previous 2 games, what white did was f5, and on bishop f7, then queen g4, he tried to get some activity on the king side. But after c3, this bishop went comfortably on the e5 square, and black was doing perfectly fine. One example is the game Brkic against Hovhannisyan from Porto Carras 2011. Adams is first kicking the bishop away from this diagonal, but this is not everything that he has prepared. For him, it's important to have the bishop away, because his idea is to play first of all f5, and on the next move, brilliant idea, very nice move, e5. Actually, it was very funny because today the commentators were talking about books, and Tanya Sajdev mentioned that she likes the book by Aaron Nimtsevich, My System. This is one of the things that Nimtsevich was also showing and demonstrating in his book. A move like e5 is a typical Nimtsevich move. He's opening the e4 square for the knight, and this is a great outpost for the white pieces. After the capture, which is pretty much forced, black cannot allow the pawn to go to e6, obviously. White goes queen g4. And taken by surprise, Topalov remained true to his style, and he played the move queen d3, sacrificing a pawn in return, but looking for counterplay. The alternatives are probably not very good. The most obvious idea was to castle short, but then after knight e4, white's attack is going by itself. The obvious threat is bishop h6, also there is the threat bishop g5, bishop f6, so bishop g5, knight f6, or even f6. And seemingly this is a very difficult position for black, and most likely even objectively it is a very typical position. Just to mention that the computer likes here the move h5 and gives it as the best defensive resource for black. I don't really believe that any human being will play like that, especially taken by surprise. The other idea of castling long with, say, queen d7 wouldn't be sound neither, because after knight f3 and long castle, then white is simply regaining the pawn and he has all the advantages at the moment. Also, f6 ideas are in the air, or simply rook e1, and white has a lot of activity and very, very nice center. So therefore Topalov played the move queen to d3, but on queen d3, queen takes g7 has been played with a tempo, and the queen took the pawn on e5 with a check. King d7 was Topalov's idea, and obviously he wants to go into counterattack with rook e8, castle by hand, and then thanks to the two bishops, which viciously looking at this king on the king side and the rook on the g file and the active queen, he might get tremendous attack. Look at the white pieces, they are not yet there, they are not yet ready. But Adams finds a very, very neat way to stop this initiative. He goes queen e4. Now anytime that black captures on e4, he's going to recapture with the knight, not only developing his pieces but threatening forks like knight to f6, and the knight on e4 is still tremendously well placed. For example, besides the move queen a6, which has been played in the game, there was also the move queen d5, to which an important move is c4, and after the capture on e4 and bishop c4, the forcing line knight f6 check, followed by knight g8 check, and rook f3 leads to an endgame where white is up in exchange, and I think that he has very, very serious chance of winning this. This might have been the best chance for Topalov though, because the move queen to a6 is leaving the queen out of the game for a while, and Adams makes perfect use of that one by pushing the pawn on f6. The threat is queen e7 check, so rook e8 is more or less forced. Now check, king d8, he couldn't make it for just one move, and c4, extremely important move. Not only that the queen is excluded, but the d5 square is taken under control, there will be no counterplay. Topalov found queen a5, but Adams is once again very, very precise. He goes queen h3, keeps the king into the center. All he needs to do at the moment is to move away the knight and to give a check on the d file. And on queen b4, this is probably the moment in which he missed the neatest win and the fastest win. Knight b3 was that move, followed by rook d1 check, and the lines after queen d3 check, queen d6 and queen c2 are quite convincing. You can check them in the news section. You will see the game annotated. They are a little bit deeper than here. While the move that Adams played, queen takes h7, was also an excellent one, the second best, I can say it. I can put it this way, and it also led to a win to the white player, although after queen to f8, b3, bishop d4, queen d3, queen d6, knight e4 and queen d7, maybe instead of move queen d7, Topalov should have tried some tactics with rook takes e4, followed by bishop takes a1. After bishop f4, rook g4, still very tactful move. Bishop d6, I'm pretty sure that he calculated that far, and he saw that he is 2 pawns down in an endgame. But the opposite colored bishops and the activity that black is getting here on the queen side might have made it a little bit difficult for white to convert the advantage. Also, whenever he removes that pawn, he can put the bishop on d5, followed by rook e2, and there'll be some problems on the second rank as well. Anyway, it should be added that Topalov was very low on time, and after queen d7, Adams completely took control of the situation. He took a piece. The last chance was some mate in the time trouble, but it wasn't given. Bishop g5 was excellent move, and on rook e4, Adams took on a7, threatening mate himself. On bishop d5 he gave a check, and on king d7 he avoided the checkmate, which could have happened after queen g8, rook e1 followed by queen g2 checkmate. And instead of this he simply took on d5 first, forcing resignation. This was the Englishman's first win in the tournament, very beautiful as you could see it. And now he's back into the battle. So that will be everything from today. I'll see you next time.